Hey everyone. I never thought I'd be one of those people pouring their heart out on the internet, but here I am. Maybe I'm just looking for clarity, or maybe I'm just trying to make sense of the mess that used to be my life. Either way, I could use a place to be honest. I'm a 39-year-old guy, married for 13 years. We have a 12-year-old son. He's a good kid, but he's been struggling lately. School's been a nightmare. Behavioral issues, low grades, disciplinary problems, you name it. It's been hard watching him spiral, especially since I'm not around much. I work long shifts at a factory. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills, keeps a roof over our heads. My wife, let's call her T, doesn't work. Never really has. The plan was that she'd stay home and focus on raising our boy. I didn't mind that at first. I wanted to give her that stability, that peace. And with our son needing extra attention, I figured it made sense. Over the past year, though, things started to feel off. At first, it was small stuff. T got really obsessed with our son's school performance. Like overly obsessed. She'd be texting his teachers, emailing the school counselor, and eventually, the principal. Let me tell you, this guy, the principal, I met him once at a school event. Clean-cut, silver-haired type, probably in his late 40s. The kind of guy who talks with his hands and acts like he's doing you a favor by speaking to you. Let's call him Mr. Polished. Anyway, T started going to the school a lot more. At first, I thought she was being proactive. You know, being a good mom. But then she started dressing differently. She bought new clothes. Started putting on makeup to look presentable for school meetings. She even started wearing perfume. For a parent-teacher meeting. Seriously? I asked her about it once. She laughed in my face and said, God, you're so insecure. I'm just trying to help our son. Someone has to. I let it go. I figured maybe I was being paranoid. I mean, she's a mom trying to help her kid. Who am I to criticize that? But something didn't sit right. And that gut feeling, it only got worse from there. So yeah, my gut wouldn't shut up. You know that feeling? Like you're trying to tell yourself you're just imagining things, but the pit in your stomach keeps twisting tighter every day? I started paying more attention. T's phone was suddenly off limits. She used to leave it lying around, open, unlocked. Now it was always face down. Notifications silenced. If it buzzed and I glanced over, she'd snatch it up like I was some criminal. I wasn't snooping, not at first. I trusted her. Or at least, I wanted to. One night after my shift, I came home late. The house was dark, except for a faint light coming from the kitchen. I figured she stayed up to make something to eat. When I walked in, she was at the table, typing something on her laptop. She jumped when she saw me and quickly closed the tab. Now listen, I'm not a tech genius, but I know how to check browser history. Later, while she was in the shower, I opened it up. Emails. Dozens of them. Between her and him, the principal. She saved them under boring names like parent correspondence and curriculum notes. But I read them. My hands were literally shaking. It started out professional. Discussions about our son's struggles. But the tone shifted. Flirty comments. Personal anecdotes. Him complimenting her on how engaged she was. Her saying he was refreshing to talk to, compared to her emotionally unavailable husband. That last one? That hit me like a freight train. There was one message, burned into my memory, where he said, "You looked beautiful today. I had a hard time keeping the meeting focused." And she replied, "Maybe next time we should meet somewhere less formal." That was it. That was the moment the switch flipped in my head. The woman I worked my ass off for, the mother of my child, was playing house with our son's goddamn principal behind my back. While I was working overtime. While I was too exhausted to even eat dinner some nights. And suddenly, everything clicked. The perfume. The makeup. The longer meetings. The sudden confidence. The short temper with me. She wasn't just helping our son. She was enjoying the attention. feeding off it. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the living room, staring at the wall, going over every memory, every moment I'd brushed off. And then I started planning how I'd confront her. The next morning, I didn't say anything. I watched her make coffee like nothing had happened, like she wasn't stabbing me in the back with every casual smile. I needed more. I needed to be sure. That day, I pretended to go to work, left the house, drove around the block, and parked. Then I waited. At around 10:30 a.m., she left. All dressed up. Tight jeans, low-cut blouse, heels, for a school meeting. Sure. I followed her. She didn't go to the school. She drove to some cafe downtown. And guess who walked in 5 minutes later, looking smug as hell in his blazer and stupid leather satchel? Mr. Polished. I sat in my car across the street, watching them through the window like some washed-up private eye. Laughing. Leaning in close. She touched his hand. He touched her leg. I felt like vomiting. They were there for almost an hour. When she got back home, I waited exactly 15 minutes before walking in. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself like it was just another Tuesday. "Where were you?" I asked. She blinked, surprised. "Oh, just at the school. You know, talking to Principal Myers about." "Try again." That stopped her. Her face twitched for a split second, then she scoffed. "What's with the tone? I followed you." Her face turned white. I laid it all out. The emails. The cafe. The hand on the leg. Her reply? "You're unbelievable. Spying on me? That's controlling behavior. Maybe if you didn't treat me like a prisoner, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." I swear to God she actually said that. I was floored. She didn't deny it. Didn't apologize. Didn't cry or beg. She just flipped it around like I was the villain. Then she hit me with, "It wasn't like that. We're just talking. He's helping me through a hard time. You don't get me anymore." I asked her flat out if she'd slept with him. She wouldn't answer. Just stared at me and said, "You don't need to know everything." That silence? It said more than words ever could. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Like the woman I thought I knew had been replaced by a stranger with cold eyes and a venomous tongue. She walked out. Left the house. Didn't even slam the door, just left me standing there, gripping the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. That was the day my marriage died. After she left that day, I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by silence that felt louder than any shouting match we could have had. I kept asking myself the same stupid questions. When did I lose her? Was I really so blind? Was it my fault? I mean, I know I work a lot. I'm exhausted most days, covered in sweat and machine grease. I don't take her out much. Hell, I can't remember the last time we had a real date night that wasn't just sitting on the couch with frozen pizza. But I thought we were in this together. I thought that's what marriage was, sacrificing some things for the bigger picture. For family. For our son. Apparently, she had other plans. She didn't come home that night. Didn't call. Nothing. Around 1 a.m., I finally broke and checked her location on Google Maps. Yeah, she'd shared it with me years ago and probably forgot. She was at a hotel. Not even a subtle one. The kind of place with tacky gold curtains and rooms you rent by the hour. I remember sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at our wedding photo on the dresser. She looked so happy in it. I looked proud. We were kids back then. Dumb, hopeful kids who thought love was enough to carry us through anything. Meanwhile, I was lying next to an empty pillow, and she was probably lying next to him. The next day she walked in like nothing happened. Sunglasses on, hair messy, no guilt on her face. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to speak without screaming. She casually mentioned she was going to stay with her sister for a while. I didn't argue. I just nodded and let her walk out again. But the part that killed me? Our son was watching all of this. He didn't say much, but I could tell he knew something was wrong. He's not dumb. Kids never are. He saw the tension, the distance, the forced smiles. And worst of all, I started wondering if he'd ever respect me again after seeing me get steamrolled like this. Everything felt like it was unraveling all at once. My marriage, my trust, my sense of control. It was like someone pulled the plug on my life, and all I could do was watch it circle the drain. After she left, to stay with her sister, I expected maybe a break. Space. Some chance to talk things out like adults. But that wasn't what she had in mind. She didn't call. Didn't text to check in on our son. And when I tried to reach out? Nothing but one-word answers. Cold. Robotic. Like I was a stranger. After a week, I finally called her sister. Guess what? She wasn't there. Hadn't been there at all. Her sister sounded awkward, like she didn't want to get involved, but I pressed. And she finally cracked and said, "Look, I don't know where she is exactly, but she told me she's sorting things out. That's all I know." So she lied. Again. At that point, it hit me. I wasn't dealing with someone who made a mistake. I was dealing with someone who planned this. Covered her tracks. Had a second life already set up. Hell, she probably had a toothbrush at that guy's place by now. The worst part? She was still pretending to be a concerned mother when it fit her narrative. She'd pop up suddenly and ask, "How's he doing in school?" Or, "Did you give him his meds?" Like she hadn't just blown up his entire emotional world. Like she wasn't part of the reason he couldn't concentrate or sleep properly. I kept things civil. For my son's sake. But every interaction felt like being stabbed with a dull knife. And then came the final twist that knocked the wind out of me. I went to school one afternoon to talk to the counselor, trying to figure out how to support my son better, now that things were chaotic at home. While I was there, the secretary asked if I wanted to wait for the principal. She said, "He's in a meeting, but I'm sure he'd love to say hi. He sees your wife all the time." My heart sank. "All the time?" I asked. "Oh yeah," she said with a smile. "I think she's part of some volunteer committee now. Parent leadership group or something like that. They're really close." Close. What a polite little euphemism for banging behind my back while I paid for groceries. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had inserted herself into that man's world like she belonged there. Like she was already building a future. And me? I was just the guy who paid the bills and took out the trash. That was the moment I knew there was no coming back. After that day at the school, I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I had been before. I was numb. You know what's wild? You think betrayal is going to feel like rage. Like fire in your chest. But it didn't. It felt like this cold, quiet emptiness that just settled in and made itself at home. I went through the motions for my son. Made him breakfast. Drove him to school. Helped with homework. But I could tell even he was losing his grip. He barely spoke. Started sleeping in my bed. Clung to me like he was afraid I'd leave too. And honestly, that nearly broke me more than the affair. One night he asked, "Why doesn't Mom come home anymore?" I froze. I lied. I told him she was just taking a break because adults sometimes need space. But the way he looked at me, like he knew I was lying, made me want to scream. Then, like life hadn't screwed me over enough, I got a call from one of the other parents at school. I barely knew the guy. Our kids were in the same class, but he said something that hit me sideways. "Hey, not trying to stir drama or anything, but your wife's been spending a lot of time with Principal Myers. Like after hours. They were at the last PTA fundraiser together. Looked close." I thanked him and hung up. That night, I opened Facebook and found a photo someone had tagged the school in. It was from the fundraiser. There she was. My wife. Standing next to him. His hand on her back. Hers on his chest. Not overtly romantic, but intimate. The kind of touch you don't give to a coworker. The kind of touch that screams, "This is mine now." I stared at that photo for so long my screen dimmed. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I didn't even think about it. I just did it. Like ripping off a Band-Aid soaked in gasoline. And when she finally came over to talk, I didn't even let her in. She stood on the porch, sunglasses on, looking irritated like I was inconveniencing her. "I'm filing for divorce," I said through the screen door. She blinked. Like I'd slapped her. Then she smiled, actually smiled, and said, "Took you long enough." That was the last time I saw her in person. After that final moment on the porch, she didn't even fight me on the divorce. No screaming, no fake tears, no apologies. She didn't even ask about custody. Just a shrug and a quiet, "Let me know what the lawyer says." Like we were discussing a bad business partnership instead of 13 years of marriage and a child. That was when I realized she had checked out a long time ago. Maybe before the affair even started. I think the principal just gave her the excuse she was looking for. The divorce process started rolling fast. I wasn't looking to take everything, just wanted custody of our son and the house. Thankfully, she didn't contest either. I think she was more eager to be free than to fight. But even with her gone, the emotional wreckage she left behind stayed. My son started acting out. Refusing to go to school. Said he didn't want to see that guy, the principal. When I asked him what he meant, he said, "Mom's always with him. They act like they're married already." I didn't even know what to say to that. I tried to shield him from the worst of it. Kept things civil. Told him the truth in pieces, that his mom and I were getting divorced, and that it had nothing to do with him. But how do you explain betrayal to a 12-year-old without destroying what little innocence he has left? Meanwhile, the factory became my escape. I took on extra shifts just to stay busy. My coworkers noticed something was off, but I kept quiet. Said I was just tired. And I was. Tired of pretending everything was okay. Tired of watching my son break down every time his mother missed a scheduled call or forgot a school event. Tired of waking up alone and feeling that echo where a partner used to be. And the nightmares. God. The dreams where I'd walk into that cafe again and see them laughing. Over and over every night. Like some sick mental loop I couldn't break. But somewhere in the middle of all that pain, I started to feel something else. Relief. As twisted as it sounds, there was freedom in the honesty. I wasn't walking on eggshells anymore. I didn't have to question what she was doing when she left the house. I didn't have to compete with a man who'd already taken what mattered most. I was broken, but at least I was done living in denial. The irony in all this? After months of lies, the truth didn't come from her. It came from someone else, someone who had no reason to protect her. About 2 weeks after I filed for divorce, I got an unexpected call from the school's guidance counselor. She asked if we could set up a private meeting regarding my son. I assumed it was about his attendance or behavior, both of which had taken a nosedive. But when I arrived, she closed the office door, lowered her voice, and said, "I'm not supposed to say this, but you need to know what's been happening behind the scenes." Apparently, rumors had been circling the staff for months about my wife and the principal. Teachers had noticed her visiting the school well outside of regular hours. She'd been seen leaving his office late in the evening. One janitor reported they were in there together, lights off, door locked. Others said the principal had started giving my son special treatment, leniency on discipline, avoiding suspensions, glossing over behavioral problems. I was stunned. It wasn't just a personal betrayal, she was using our son as part of her cover. Pretending she was just a concerned parent when in reality, she was sleeping with the man responsible for his education. The counselor paused and looked me dead in the eye. "I think your son's issues at school? They're not just about school. He knows more than he lets on. He's angry. Confused. Probably scared." That wrecked me. I left that office feeling like the worst father on the planet. While I'd been obsessing over my wife's betrayal, I'd overlooked the one person who needed me most, my kid. That night I sat him down. I told him I knew things were confusing. That grown-ups mess up. That sometimes people make selfish decisions that hurt others. I didn't say everything, didn't tell him about the hotel or the emails or the lies, but I made it clear that he could talk to me. About anything. Anytime. He cried. I did too. Then he whispered something I'll never forget. I knew Mom was with him. I saw them kissing once, behind the school. I didn't know what to do. My heart shattered. All this time, he'd been carrying that weight, thinking he had to protect me. The betrayal hadn't just destroyed a marriage, it had torn through the foundation of our son's trust in both of us. And I realized that whatever pain I was feeling, his was 10 times worse. That was the night I stopped grieving the relationship and started fighting to rebuild what was left of our family. After that night, everything shifted. I stopped worrying about her. Her relationship with the principal, what lies she was telling, where she was staying, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was my son. He was the only thing that deserved my attention, my energy, my strength. I started showing up everywhere for him. School meetings, basketball practice, therapy sessions. Yeah, I got him into therapy. Something I probably should have done months ago. I told him it wasn't about being broken, it was about having someone to help make sense of things. Funny thing is, it helped me too. While he was in his sessions, I'd sit in the car and think about everything. Not in a bitter, revenge-driven way, but like someone looking at a wreckage and figuring out what can be salvaged. And what should be left behind. I realized something brutal. I had been clinging to a version of my wife that didn't exist anymore. Hell, maybe never did. I built her up in my head as this caring mother, loyal wife, someone who just needed support, when in reality, she was someone who used people to feel powerful. And when that wasn't enough, she blamed everyone else for her emptiness. The divorce finalized a month later. She signed everything. Didn't even ask for joint custody, said it would be too confusing for our son to bounce between homes. Translation: she wanted to play house with the principal without the inconvenience of motherhood getting in the way. The court granted me full custody. And the best part? My son started smiling again. Not often, but enough. Enough for me to know he was healing. Slowly, but surely. One afternoon, as we were driving home from school, he looked out the window and said, "I'm glad it's just us now, Dad." That hit me in the chest harder than any fight, any betrayal, any confession. I didn't respond. Just reached over and squeezed his shoulder. He knew. I knew. And that was enough. So here I am, months later, writing this with a clearer head than I ever thought I'd have again. I lost a marriage. I lost the version of my life I thought was real. But I gained something far more important: clarity, self-respect, and a stronger bond with my son than I ever imagined possible. There are still hard days. I won't lie. I see couples at the grocery store and feel a sharp, empty pang. Sometimes I hear a woman laugh with a tone that sounds just like hers, and it stirs something inside me, not love, not longing, just a bitter echo of what used to be. She and the principal? Yeah, they're still together, as far as I know. I've stopped checking. Honestly, I hope they're miserable together. But if they're not? That's fine too. They deserve each other. Two liars wrapped in a bubble of fake virtue and stolen moments. People ask me if I'd ever trust again. If I'd date again. Right now? No. I'm not ready. And that's okay. I'm focused on raising a kind, resilient kid. One who knows what real love looks like, not the performative, transactional kind his mother specialized in. If you're reading this because something feels off in your relationship, listen to your gut. Don't let guilt or doubt silence you. You are not crazy. You are not controlling. You are not paranoid. You're just someone who feels when something's broken, and that's not weakness. That's instinct. And if you've already found the truth like I did, breathe. You will survive. You will feel shattered. You'll think it's your fault. You'll ask yourself if you were enough. And eventually, if you keep moving forward, even in tiny, exhausted steps, you'll realize you were more than enough. They were just too small to hold it. Thanks for reading. Be kind to yourselves. And to those who've been through betrayal, you're not alone. A factory worker turned full-time father, and survivor of the worst love story I never asked to be in.